Hi everyone, Mark Lyman with HomeFixated.com. I want to talk with you today a little bit about the Bosch 18 volt socket ready impact driver. What is socket ready, you might ask? Well, that's this unusual configuration on the front of this impact driver. Now, most impact drivers have a standard 1/4 inch hex bit, which this tool does too. Simply put the bit in the front here, pull out that ring, and your bit's locked into place just like it would be with any other impact driver. Same thing for removing it. You pull on this little ring, bit pops right out. Actually, this ring is a little bit fatter and it's rubberized, so it's actually a little bit easier to operate one-handed than some of the other tools out there. But aside from that, it has a 1/2 inch socket square drive. And so you can take any 1/2 inch socket. Now this particular one isn't impact rated, and it's also probably a little bigger than you'd typically use on a tool like this. Usually you'd be using sockets for doing something like driving lag bolts or something along those lines. But just to show you how it functions, this 1 inch socket pops right on there. 1 inch size overall, it's a 1/2 inch bit. And then it's a friction ring that holds it into place. So all you have to do to pull it off is just pull. You don't have to do anything with this red ring, and you can slide a socket on and pull it off. Now you can see I had to pull a little bit there, and that's actually a good thing because there's nothing more annoying when you're working with sockets than having a loose bit in there and having the socket kind of pop off the driver when you're working with it. So I don't think that's likely to happen with this tool. It feels really, really solid on there. So that is a standout feature. As far as I know, Bosch is the only one that has this. I think it's a Bosch patented innovation. So depending on whether or not they're nice enough to share this with any of their other rival tool companies, this may be something that you only find on Bosch tools. So when I work with tools, if I have to hunt for an adapter, it's pretty much rage-inducing because you're there, you need the tool, you need the adapter, and inevitably, right when you need that adapter, you can't find it. So it's nice to not have to hunt for anything. It's right there integrated onto the tool. The tool also has triple LEDs, and it has this switch where you can actually turn off the LEDs. Now, I'm not a power user of this tool where I'm really going to care how much the LEDs might be impacting my runtime if I'm out there in the middle of the broad daylight operating this tool nonstop. There may be some people out there that are concerned about that, and for that you've got an off switch. The other thing is you can activate the light from that button. Now the manual says you're going to get 20 seconds of lighting out of that. I actually found, as you'll see here in a second, it's closer to about 10 seconds. Now, I thought at first, why didn't they make it a 1 minute or a 3 minute or a 5 minute cutoff so that if you're squirreled away in a cabinet somewhere or in a crawl space and you forgot your flashlight, you could actually use this as a task light in a pinch. And then I thought, well, maybe that's not such a great idea. If you're, inevitably someone's going to grab some razor sharp tool and be doing some precision cutting with it, and then all of a sudden the light turns off, right? So, but I do think that if you're going to have a separate switch for the light, it would be cool if it just left the light on. Now, folks are going to say, well, you're going to run out of battery juice that way, and then you're going to go to use your tool as an actual impact driver, and it's going to be out of juice. You can always recharge the battery, and most people have more than a single battery pack in that case. But I actually think it would be kind of nice to have it do double duty as a task light. The lighting on here is bright enough that it could actually pull it off. With the current setup, I'm a trigger guy, so I always know where the trigger is when I'm holding the tool. So if I'm going to operate the light, I'm not inclined to reach down and hit a button. I'm going to pull the trigger and activate the light that way. So from that standpoint, the separate light switch is not a huge selling point for me, but it might be for you. The button that I do like is this power setting button here, and you can see I'm on setting 1. I'll show you how that sounds at least. That's 1300 RPM. If I move it up to the setting 2, that's 2000 RPM. I just counted. And this is setting 3, 2800 RPM. So depending on what you're doing, if you're working with finesse and you have some little brass screws that you're using on some delicate hinges, you're going to want setting 1. If you're stepping it up to regular fasteners or lag bolts, you might want to go up to 2 or 3. So you've got all those options, and of course the speed is variable depending on the trigger, obviously. So in addition to that, the tool has a belt clip which you can reverse to either side, pretty standard. and it has onboard bit storage, which I was really happy to see. My first Bosch cordless drill from way back when had a little recess in the top of the unit. I think it was like a 9.35 volts, something like that. This was way back. And you had a bit that had a flathead on one side and a Phillips on the other, and you just always had the bit that you needed because that's basically all that you need it for at the time. There really weren't that many other exotic fasteners out there. So I loved having that bit storage on there. At some point, I don't know if there was some marketing survey that went out to all the tool companies, but there was like this dark age of onboard bit storage where no tool manufacturers wanted to include bit storage anymore. Now I'm happy to say that many manufacturers are incorporating at least onboard bit storage or optional onboard bit storage into their tools. And I think it totally makes sense. You know, for most people, 50 to 95% of what they do can be accomplished with one of these bits. And if you've got it right here, conveniently integrated into the base of the tool, it's great. You don't have to hunt for it. There's no hassle. So aside from that, there's a battery gauge on the pack itself. You can see I'm almost out of battery here. This is a slim pack. You can obviously put higher amp hour batteries on here if you'd like. Performance on this tool was outstanding. I used it on a number of tasks, including subflooring tasks to get a bunch of screws in and out. And it did great. It really functioned really, really well. So, you know, with a lot of these tools, these new brushless impact drivers, the performance varies among the units, but I think a lot of the actual experience of using the tool comes from some of these smaller design details. The big standout for me on this particular tool was the ergonomics. This tool just felt like it was made for my hand. Now, I have about a size large glove that I typically wear. And so just to give you some frame of reference on my hand size, if you have huge hands, you know, your mileage may vary as far as how you feel the ergonomics are on this. But I also like the fact that the head of the unit, where the motor is, and the battery, and this will vary a little bit depending on what battery pack you put in there, just feels perfectly balanced. There's some tools that you grab in your hand and they're so lopsided, even when you're not using them, they want to kind of tip out of your hand or they just feel like they're pulling on you. That's not the case with this Bosch. It just feels like it's just, like I said, made for my hand. Now I'm going to do the unthinkable here and actually pull out a red tool in the middle of a Bosch review. This is Milwaukee's Fuel brushless 18 volt impact driver. Very similar tool, a couple differences. There's no separate light switch. The LED is a single LED as opposed to the triple LED. Obviously it has a standard 1/4 inch bit. It doesn't have the socket ready feature that the Bosch does. No onboard bit storage. But a great tool, and really the biggest difference I found between these tools, aside from that socket ready, is that the Milwaukee grip is a little bit thicker and feels actually a little bit bulky in my hand. Now I actually went and measured because I wasn't sure if it was my imagination. If you look at the two tools, the grip looks very comparable. I mean, they're not, they look very, very similar. So I went and measured from where kind of the heel of your hand meets the tool to the front of the trigger. And on the Milwaukee, it was about a little bit less than a 1/4 inch longer than the Bosch. So for me, on my grip, it just didn't feel like it was quite as well integrated with my hand. Again, your mileage may vary. If you've got huge hands or really small hands, you may find you like one more than the other. But to me, that was one of the big standouts with the Bosch, was really great ergonomics, great performance like many of the other tools out there, and the socket ready feature is again something that's a real standout. So, you know, if you don't have an impact driver, which, you know, most folks do at this point, just stop watching this review and go out and get one because they've really revolutionized the way we work with fasteners these days. But this is a great tool to consider if you're looking at getting an impact driver or you're looking to replace an older one. The socket ready feature is great if you do any work with sockets as well. So for more details about this tool, as well as many other tools, some construction tips, how-to projects, great products for around the home and your shop, be sure to drop on by homefixated.com. We look forward to seeing you there.